Pint-Sized Baker and the hostess of the online blog conference. Welcome to our continuing education presentation. This is our presentation today. We have Ashlee Prisbrey from ashleemarie.com, and she is here to give us an overview of how to use Google Analytics to get your top posts of the year. That's a pretty popular post that a lot of people will put out as kind of filler for the end of the year, is there's their top posts. So we're going to be using Google Analytics to find that out. Ashlee, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. So we're going to get into Google Analytics. So I hope that everybody can open up their Analytics account, take a look, and she's going to talk us through how to do this, because it can be a little confusing.
It can be. It can be. Google Analytics is a lot of fun too. So I'm going to screen share, and let's make sure I have the right screen. Okay. And share. Yay! That work?
Yes. There we go.
All right, wonderful. So when you first open up Google Analytics, you get the overview and you get the most recent month. So the first thing that you want to do is obviously change the date range to the beginning of the year. And then apply. So you can see your entire year at once. Mine always looks like this beautiful little curve with some nice little things going on in it. And then you want to go down to behavior and site content and all pages. Now, if you have dates in your URL, you'll actually be able to do this a lot easier, but since a lot of us don't, I'm going to go with that way, because this will work even if you have dates, but this will be a little easier. So these are your top posts for the year. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my first, 20 aren't even from this year usually, so it always takes a little bit of trying to shuffle and figure it out. Maybe it's just me, but I don't have dates in my URL for SEO purposes, so I have to just go, I know this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one are not from 2015, so I'm just going to skip them. So the very first one from 2015 is this homemade Choco Taco. Now, if you're not sure, you can always click on this little icon right here, and it'll open up a window. And, well, if you have dates in your post, like I can see, okay, yeah, this is from 2015. So what I do, since I don't have a way to just, if I had dates in my URL, I could just search 2015, and that would be easy, and it would pop everything from 2015 up, and I'd be able to see my top 10 right there. But I don't, so that's not going to work for me. So I like to just keep a spreadsheet open in the tab right next to mine. So I'm going to add homemade Choco Taco, and I'm just going to copy and paste this. Taco. Now this is with that exact URL, because oftentimes Google Analytics will show you different URLs if you have a lot of differences. Like this year for a while, I had a different mobile URL for my mobile post. So really quickly, I'm going to search Choco. Now, if you're going to put more than one word in the search, make sure you use dashes, because that is what these dashes within your URL is what Google Analytics is looking for. If you just use a space instead of a dash, it's actually not going to find it. So I'm going to search that, and all of a sudden we're going to see that there's more than just that 46,000. I was with Flight for a while, the Blogger Network Flight and ads, and they add these weird, they change your URL, they change the slug, and they add all of this articles and gibberish numbers to it. So I needed to find that as well. So by searching that, I can see I had another 2,000 on mobile when I was with Flight that weren't counted in that original one. So it's just good to know. So I'm going to take this number instead and add that to my spreadsheet. Now, for the most part, everything's going to stay in order from when I'm looking at it in this view right here. But every once in a while, those changed URLs are going to add up enough to the total that it will change my top 10, the order around. So it's just good to know how to do that. And sometimes maybe you've changed a slug. If you've changed one of your slugs, one of your URLs within the year, you're going to want to go and look at both versions of that slug. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you're using Ahology and they tack on their acronym, or if you're on Blogger and they have a slash m equals 1 for their mobile.
For their mobile.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I just pulled up mine and I have a whole bunch of weird.
Yeah, it used to be easier to just find your top 10, and now with all of these additional things that we've added to our websites that are changing the slugs and the URL, it's getting a lot harder to do. So again, if you have a date within your URL, it's going to be a lot easier because you can just search 2015, find your top 10, and then search those additional slugs. But since most of us don't anymore, you're just going to have to go one by one. And it usually takes me a couple of pages to find my top 10. So for me, none of these are from this year again. So you just kind of have to keep going page by page. For some reason, my 2012 is a really popular year for me, so a lot of those URLs are really big. And so this chalkboard one, I know that this one is another one for me, so I'm going to search really fast. Chalkboard. And then it's going to pull up all the options of chalkboard. And I can copy and paste that. Now, if you have multiple posts that have, oh, look, I have this chalkboard chargers one, so that's not going to give me an accurate read, so I'm going to have to add cookies to that. And that took a 4,000 away, and now I know how much more accurate that is. So then I can do, what was it? Thank you. All of a sudden my brain just blinked. Anyway, and that is, that's how I do that. So it takes a little bit longer than it used to, but it's really not bad. I mean, it's been just a couple minutes and we found 2 already. So the biggest problem is just remembering your own content. If you know your content well, this shouldn't be a problem for you. But if you don't know your content well, then it's going to be a little bit harder, especially if you have like 8 years of content like I do.
Yeah, I have quite a bit as well, and I switched from Blogger to WordPress, so I dropped all the dates.
Yeah, which is a really good way to go for SEO. I know that it's a pain. So last year, if we go to 2014, but last year I actually changed my URL completely. So notice I have where this URL started. And then if I go over to my old URL, then we have the first half of the year. So that was really fun to try to add the URLs from both. I ended up having like a huge spreadsheet with like the one URL and the old URL because the top 10 from the beginning of the year was so different from the top 10 from the end of the year that I ended up doing like top 20 from both and then merging them and then figuring out what the top 10 was. It was a pain. I don't suggest it. For anybody, but yeah, it can be time consuming, but I would say it's definitely worth it to find those top 10 because you can do your top 10 for all time, but for me those are usually the same, at least 8 of the same posts every single year. I don't know about you guys, but there's just kind of those couple posts that always do well, and it's kind of nice for my readers to see something different and be re-engaged in the current content. Let's change this back to 15. Anyway, so do you have any questions on how to find that? There used to be a way to just, I mean, there still is, to create something that's just sent to you from Google Analytics, but that only works if your content is really clean, if you don't have those extensions, if you have dates in your URLs. If you don't, it's just, oh, what did I do? Not 2005. So this is the easiest way I found when you're doing it longhand like this.
Okay. So yeah, so just one by one, and using the customization report really won't help either for that.
Not for this, no. The customization report needs something to base that year on. So again, if you have the dates in your URL, you can use custom. I can't even show you because I don't have dates in my URL how to do that, but since so many of us don't, and since so many of us now have all those additional things added to our URLs, to our slugs, like all of this articles, or like you said, the mobile, and it's just becomes too difficult to really be able to rely on those customization reports.
Okay. Well, that's a bummer. That's what I used to do. Okay.
And it made it super easy and fast.
True.
But yeah, I would say I just sit down probably in 2 weeks from right now just to give some of my Thanksgiving posts a little bit more time. And It really only took like 30 minutes last year, and that was even with the two URLs that I had to swap back and forth between. As long as you know your content well. It gets tricky if you are like, wait, was this from this year? Was this from last year? I'm trying to find one that I might be confused about, but oh, Karma Popcorn Balls. I think I did that as a guest post for somebody a couple years ago, so that might be confusing for me. Oh, wait, was this a couple years ago? Because that's when I first wrote the post, or was this this year content? So again, you just click that little icon. It'll pull it up, and you can say, okay, it was in 2015. And I tend to get hazy around like the December, January posts from last year.
Right.
You know, where was the one? But other than that,
when you and you can, I've done this before where you can export these though. You can put it all into Google and not Google. You can put it into like a
drive, like an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. So you're saying if you don't want to be constantly, if you want to just print off like the first 50 or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to do that, but I don't know about you guys. For me, it takes so many page clicks over to get to all of to see all of the top 10 for the year, and then with the interactiveness of needing to search, you know, Chalkboard and find the additional URLs, I find that that's actually not easier for me. It's easier just to sit here and do it like in that form.
Okay.
Because you kind of need the interactiveness of it. It would actually take me longer to go through pages and pages and pages and find all the article/gibberish Chalkboard to add to the original one.
But does that, I mean, so when I look at mine, I've got like gibberish 2, gibberish like 5, and I'm like, I don't care. That's not going to make a big deal. But
oh, totally. For some of them, it doesn't. Choco Taco. Let's look up that one again. No space, dash. This one had an additional 2,000, which, let's face it, I'm not a huge blog, but if I was, that was 6 months of mobile views that it's nice to know. Okay. Now, these gibberish ones, yeah, no, I don't care about those at all. But so if I didn't have these extra mobile views, because mobile views can be a huge amount. This one came out about the same time as I quit using the Blogger Network Flight because I didn't like how they were adding like words and stuff to my slugs as well, which makes it difficult. Let's see if I can find an example. Okay. Oops. Ice cream. Here. So I had one that was called 29 Ice Cream Maker Recipes, and the Blogger Network turned it to 29 the number, and it added the word giveaway to the end of the slug. So that could get tricky, because if I was searching for 29, it wouldn't have found it. Oops, if I could spell 29 correctly. So a lot of these aren't just changing the gibberish at the end, they're actually changing the slug as well, which causes searching for these to be a lot more difficult. Now this was a giveaway, so it was only, you know, really relevant for a short period of time, but still it became difficult to add those up for me and when I was searching for them, so that's another reason that I got rid of that, because I didn't like that it was changing those slugs like that. Because, yeah, again, it makes searching for it harder as I'm going through my URLs for the year.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm looking at mine and trying to figure out. Do you know what all those like extra things, where they're coming from? What all the extra, you know,
all of these little ones down below?
Well, just
because like this one is coming from the Blogger Network Flight. We know that. It took me a while to figure out what that was. But these all down below, like this one was a tag, right? It was just a tag page that got them to that. A lot of it is searches. A lot of it is miswritten searches, and a lot of these gibberish ones that are on the bottom are from people linking to you that are linking like slightly off, and it's causing it to create a new URL. Like on my blog, when you click the More button underneath, right?
Yeah, it does a /more on that slug.
Right, exactly. So little things like that are what creates these little gibberish URLs at the bottom.
Oh, that's
links from like Blog Lovin', click-throughs from something like that has like a bar across the top where they're getting credit for your page view. Things like that, when you click over or close it, those cause the gibberish. And like you said, usually it's kind of a really unique one, so it's just a one view because it's not repeated. But every once in a while, it'll be something like these weird article ones that actually add up to something that you want to make sure you know about. Does that make sense?
Yes. So if you're featured on like one of the big like one of the HuffPost roundups or something like that, that could put all this in. Or if you're like, I have some translate ones here. I'm looking at my site. And is that like a foreign site that has literally translated something?
That's probably like, because you're with Blogger, right?
I'm not anymore, but
those are probably old. Those are probably old ones, because Blogger would allow people who were coming from another country to easily, like, they could have a Google plugin and then they could translate the page. So then it was creating a unique URL when they were using Google to translate your page. So it was still your page. You're still getting credit for it, or it wouldn't show up in Google Analytics. But it's Google creating a unique page for people trying to read it under that language, whatever it was that they were translating it into.
Okay. Interesting. Nancy, were there any questions?
There was actually one. It was asking about removing the date from the URL, and Brianna was asking if it was worth the pain to do it.
I did it years ago, and I personally think it is, but Google is my top referrer, and so SEO is really, really important to me in keeping my SEO clean. So personally, I think it is. But Karen, you just did it. You were right in the middle of the pain of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did it, and my stats all jumped, and what I'm really looking forward to is redoing older, like my #1 post is a post from 2012.
Mine too.
It has horrible pictures, ugly, bleh. But I want to redo it and make it new again, and that was one of my driving factors as to why I dropped. And
right, because you can republish it without changing the URL and using all of the social media shares when there's no date.
Right, right. And but I did some of my posts with the move. Some of the posts did lose the Pinterest counts, so some kept them. Thankfully, this one has over 40-some thousand pins. It kept that number, and I really love seeing that number, but some of them just don't even show any social shares at all. So it's hit or miss on that. But
yeah, I would say I changed mine before Pinterest, so I didn't have that pain. But I just recently switched my URL, so kind of the same thing. All of my URLs changed and are being redirected the same way yours are.
Right. And
I would say watch your Google Analytics. I'm a big fan of Google Analytics. Watch your Pinterest referrals. Because I just kind of wasn't really paying attention to it, and then I went to teach a class on Google Analytics, so I was kind of looking through my Google Analytics again, and I noticed that I'd had a pretty steep drop, and I went searching for why, and I found that it was Pinterest had a huge drop, and I hadn't noticed for 3 months, and I don't know that I'll ever really recover from Pinterest blocking all of my old URLs for 3 months, where if I'd caught it right away, it wouldn't have caused as many problems as it's causing for me. So that's the one thing I would say if you make those switches, to just keep an eye on that in your Google Analytics. Not like every day, but every couple of weeks go in and check and see if there's a dive, because Pinterest is really good about fixing that. If you can show, hey, this was me, this is me now. Mm-hmm. It's super legit, and they put me on a list that it should never happen again. They were really great to work with. It just took a couple emails, and it was my own fault for letting it go for so long, but they were great about it, and they're totally willing to work with that and get it fixed right away, and then you shouldn't have problems in the future. As long as they know about it, they're really good about it.
Yeah, and I knew that going in, so a week ahead of time I said, hey, I'm changing. Just want to let you know, please don't mark me as bad. And they were.
I would say to keep an eye on it anyway, because I told them before I made the change, and I had a couple good months of clean, and then I had a couple hiccups, and I checked in with them again. They cleaned up those hiccups, and then another 4 months later is when I had all of a sudden just devastation to Pinterest. And that took a couple months for me to notice and fix. I was just like, because I was always checking my page views. I'm like, why are my page views so low? What's going on? And it just stupid me not taking the time to just research it a little bit more. I just figured, oh, it's summer, right? It's low.
Yeah.
It's really low.
And this past year, a lot of bloggers were complaining of how low things were, and the Pinterest change with the analytics.
Yeah, so I just kind of wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then somebody complained or something. I clicked on a pin, or I don't remember how it happened, but all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. So
Karen, did you have somebody do it for you?
Do what?
The changing of your URLs and redirecting and all that.
Yeah, well, I worked with Katie, you know, from OBC, and Katie from the Blog Help. She did the move. She did everything, and I mean, I knew going in that was going to be one of my changes, and to set up all the 301 redirects.
Okay. I have the date in mine, and I've just been like scared to death to even touch it, which is why I haven't touched it.
Yeah, no, there's a really easy way in your cPanel to redirect your slug to your slug, because that's all that, you know, that's the really important part. You can take the date away as long as the slug is leading to the slug, and like Katie knows how to do it. It's a pretty fast fix, because like Karen was moving everything, right, from Blogger to WordPress, but you're probably already on WordPress and you're just getting rid of the date. It's a super easy fix. But it is worth paying the $15 or $20 to someone who knows how to set it up in cPanel correctly. But there's a ton of I would say there's a ton of tutorials out there if you wanted to try to do it on your own. It's not hard to just do that change versus like the whole move.
Yeah. You know, it's funny though, but I actually feel some comfort seeing the date. I don't know why, because like I go back and I was like, oh yeah, it was that day. But I saw when you pulled up your page, you actually showed the date at the top of your post. Yeah. There are some bloggers you go on, I'm like, when was this ever published? There's no date, and I have to go to the comments at the very bottom to go, oh, okay, this is 2 years old, or this is 1 year old.
I took mine off for a while just to see what I thought, and then I put it back on just for my own, because I liked to see it. I liked to be able to quickly go, when was this, rather than have to go into my back end. And the same thing, I went to another blogger's site and was like, oh, I wonder how old this is. Mostly it was because it was similar to my content. I wanted to see what came first. And so, yeah, I found that I liked seeing the date in other people, so I added it back to the top of my post. But it's a personal preference. I know why people don't do it. I can see why, to make it feel more timeless. But yeah.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah, one of the continuing education things that I personally would like to do for online BlogCon is how to rename your posts and how to do your own 301, because I know a lot of people like myself have awesome cookies plus a giveaway and things about my kid. I mean, like horrible. Just
when I first started 8 years ago, I have all these like cutesy titles, or it's bad. It's really bad.
And it's one thing when you're doing a big move like I did and move, but it's another thing when you're like, okay, I'm just cleaning up and doing just general maintenance, and this one is ugly, this giveaway. It was 4 years ago, and I'm, you know, let's just clean it up and get rid of it and make it.
And a lot of people don't even know. It's surprising to me how easy it is to change your URL and your title to begin with, right, before you even publish it, and make sure that that giveaway may be in the title for a while but isn't in your URL. And that's the one that a lot of people don't know, and that's a pretty simple way to change it moving forward.
Yeah, and you can do it both on WordPress and Blogger, so I'll put that there. It's just the extra step to do, but if you don't know any better.
Well, like Google doesn't like to read numbers 29. They like to read it written out, TWENT. So like in my URLs, my slugs, I'll have the numbers written out all the way, or in my titles, nobody wants to see a title that long, so then I just do the 29, the numbers.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, that's news to me.
Something new, yay!
All right. Is there anything else, Ashlee, that you want to add about the analytics and moving forward with that? I mean, it's just a manual process.
It is. It's a pain. It's a manual process. I think it's worth doing, even if you don't do a post, just to know for yourself. I actually spend quite a bit of time at the end of the year not just collecting those top 10 for this year, but seeing how old ones went, comparing this year to last year, stuff like that. So make Google Analytics your friend. If you don't understand it, Google is sharing they're giving away everything. They know everything about your readers, and they're giving it all to you. And so it's worth taking the time to understand Google Analytics. It's amazing how much more information it is than just these are the posts that they saw, or this is how many page views you got. So I think, yeah, make Google your friend.
Just to take it one step further, do you go to the developers' tools to look at where you rank for those keywords in those posts by any chance? Do you take it to that next level?
No, I used to, and I just found that was one extra stress that I was focusing on and not enjoying. So I personally quit doing that for myself. But if it all kind of depends at the end of the day what you're OCD about, what you want to know, and if for me, that's just something that I decided to not worry about trends and just make what I want to make. And I know it's not the smartest move as a blogger, but that's just what I had to do to keep my sanity and to keep enjoying it. But I mean, yeah, literally, Google knows everything. They will tell you everything. They know about your competitors. They know about your readers. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, it's all there. It's just a matter of taking the time to learn how to find it.
Right, which nobody enjoys.
I do.
Well,
I'm kind of a nerd with all the numbers, the technology, the back end. I enjoy that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's so much out there. We're always being told, don't add one more thing if it's not something that interests you. And kind of the same thing with analytics. If you really don't care, then yeah, then don't. But it is worth kind of knowing what's there. So if at some point you want to know where it is or you want to look it up, you know how.
Okay.
Even if you don't check it a lot.
Well, I mean, I would be personally interested to see what my top posts were and then compare it to the developer tools and see was it just by chance? Did somebody else share it that it got, it wrote on somebody else's back, you know what I mean? Or is it something that work that I put in that made it do well? So,
oh yeah.
I'm kind of...
Well, and like I have a sour cream lemon pie that I've had on my blog for, gosh, 7 years. And it's the same sour cream lemon pie that everybody else in the world has. It's like there's only one sour cream lemon pie recipe out there, literally. And then you can trace them all back to like a magazine from like the 70s. Like every single one maybe is a tablespoon off in one ingredient or another, but literally the same one. And that's when I was really looking into it, is I saw my post is great. It's old, it has great pictures because I've redone them, and I just couldn't figure out why it wasn't getting traction. And I was looking at these other blogs who also had the same recipe, and it was blowing up. I'm like, why isn't mine blowing up? So stuff like that is worth looking at. I mean, nobody was stealing from anybody. We just all happen to have the same recipe in our back pocket, but it was interesting to see how much better theirs were doing, and like, all right, what's the difference here? What do I need behind it? And stuff like that. But yeah, for the most part, I don't. Just because it gets a little too competitive.
It can be. I hear you. And then you get the stress of that end instead of being creative.
Yeah, my big focus is to compare yourself to yourself, compare your numbers to your old numbers, compare your posts to your own posts, and not compare yourself to other bloggers. That's when I found that I was getting too distracted and too caught up, and I was starting to make myself just really sick. Why am I doing this? I'm going to quit. They're doing so much better. It's just so easy for me, that was just not the direction that was healthy.
Well, so while somebody is looking at their whole year in review, it's very easy to click that compare to the previous year, the previous period. And
unless you've completely changed your URL like me, yes.
Well, true, yeah.
No, yeah, it is. It's easy to go. It's so easy to get caught up in this person's so much bigger than me, or they passed me by, or look at their growth. But what about you? Did you have a 50% growth this year? Then who cares what they did? You did awesome. So yeah, compare yourself to yourself. Set your goals for what you want to accomplish, and look at that and see if you're doing it, and judge your worth or your happiness or whatever based on if you're meeting the goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, Ashlee. Really appreciated you being on with us today.
Yeah, hopefully it's easier than people think, even though it's a little bit time-consuming.
And it's great just to put it out there. And for all OBC members, I would like everybody to encourage you to go and look, and I'll put a post up in our group of what your number one post of for the year, and I want to encourage everybody to share it and promote it. We'll share the best of our work from the year. All right? Thanks so much for being on with us, Ashlee. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, bye.